I used to. I used to heat the house with wood and had to I did too. Had a farmhouse. 2 small children and no.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. Ensure your cell phones are off or on silent. Council members, please ensure your microphones are on.
I did. I knew you did.
All right. Today is May 2nd, 2022. It's Monday, and this is a committee of the whole meeting here in council chambers. Before we get started, we're going to hop into our committee reports for this evening, and we will start off with streets, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to bring to order the Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee meeting. It is May 2nd. We're in council chambers, and it's 6 p.m. Members of the committee, myself, I'm Chair, Erica Bailey, and Shorter Griffin. All other council members are present, and guests as noted on my sheet. Topics of discussion: we have no requested legislation. We have no pending legislation, and I can open it up to the committee regarding any miscellaneous discussion. From my committee? Nothing? And there was one thing that was brought up to me. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, if you're going to bring it up, that's fine.
Well, since I'm talking, I'll just continue.
Sure. Thank you.
Mr. President had asked me why the street department, or why the service director's office, they don't get estimates in the fall. I know we can't go out to bid until the legislation is passed, our budget is passed, but is there any way that we can start getting estimates in the fall? I said, well, we have a new service director, and I don't see him here, so Mr. Tiadecki, can you answer that question?
I can just have a discussion, and we can report back next Monday. With some better, a better response to more thoroughly address, what your question is and how we might do that, what that might look like.
Okay, I'd appreciate it. Is that good?
Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Chair. Mr. Tiadecki, in context of the question, is trying to get our roads paved a little earlier in the year. We go out for bid and request for quote at the beginning of the year after our budget is passed, which then puts our projects into the fall, midsummer into the fall. And it was just asking why, could we get estimates in the fall and then start construction in the springtime after the budget passes?
Okay.
So that's the context for that question.
We'll have a discussion internally and provide some information back next week.
So I know that there's a computer generated on the streets, and it kind of grades the streets and that. So I know that's something that they were working on. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Anything from other council members regarding the streets? Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Ms. Angelo. Has any other council members gotten more reports from streets, like potholes or the potholes that have been filled that are still coming back worse conditions? Anybody?
I never got reports, but what I do is if I turn them in, I go back and see if they're taken care of.
Right.
So that's all I can say, and if you've turned any in, then, and they're out there actively every day, so I don't think they have time for a report.
No, I mean like reports from the residents. 'Cause I've seen that they're getting filled, but like a week, 2 weeks later, sometimes they're just back where they're the worst. Has anybody else got that email concerns?
That they filled them and then they're worse after they filled them?
Yeah, there's a couple of spots.
And there was some bad weather, heavy rains, and depending if they were used in the cold patch or hot patch, that makes a big difference on that. But I did get one resident that gave me a thank you, and I was like really happy with that. So, because we don't ever get those, but I did. No, I haven't gotten anything.
I had gotten one, and it had been someone I had already sent to Todd, and I just followed up with him. I know it had been repaired. It was on a very rough area of the street, and I sent it back to him.
Steve, is there a way we can find a better way to potentially do the potholes better? Like either cut them out or and seal them instead of just patching them the way we do?
You know, it's that initial winter's over to keep vehicles from, you know, ruining tires and so forth. A lot of times that shotgun approach to get out, fill it, may not be the ideal way in the perfect world, but you would, if you did every one by cutting them out and filling them in, you really would never catch up. So I think that initial reaction to keep it, you know, going initially and then come back, and if there are additional complaints, to continue to go back and then address those to a different level. But, you know, with the manpower, with the time, with winter ending, and, you know, they're really, I think the guys have been really extending their hours to get out and cover the entire city to the point that they have. So, again, continue to give feedback of where it needs to be addressed, and we'll continue to work with streets to go out and continue to build. Yes, there's better technologies out there, but it's all more manpower and a little bit more money to address it when they get it done as fast. And then you're not addressing holes that could be causing, you know, some issues elsewhere. So yes, there's ways we can look at every year and come up with hopefully better systems to continue to learn from and put in place.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Heidi, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I am no engineer and don't know anything about mixing asphalt, but especially on 4-lane roads, is it possible, if it's getting that bad that it should be cut, that we could close a lane for even a week? I don't know if that's feasible, or that would just to give our guys more time and more room, so to speak, to
That
do
was
one.
my suggestion on State Street, you know, close down that outer curb area and patch it, you know, the best that you can. Now, that was probably January, February, something of that sort, because you still have one lane. But the very next day, the crew was out there and they were patching all of those. So I would probably think if it's a permanent patch, that was probably something they would do, because they leave that street open. I'm not an engineer, but I spent many years in the service department. So it's just, you know, we've had so many holes and in huge areas. And it's hard for, you know, they can only patch what they can until they do the cutouts and do a more permanent thing. So what they do in the wintertime, in the ice and everything, is the best that they can do by just filling those. And sometimes I've had a call where, you know, you filled it, you know, a month ago and now there's holes. And when I went out there, they were already filled. So I think they kind of know, the group, the street department might have a, Dan Miller in the street, have a list that, you know, we better go back and check this one again. So, from what I understand from the service director, that they might be looking at patching some areas. We have some intersections, you know, that they need to cut out that whole intersection and maybe laying a big patch there without maybe doing all the streets. So that's what my request is to them, that maybe we can, you know, have, I think we do have a piece of equipment, and I know it's pretty old, but that might be something that they're going to start doing large patches, which will really help. Okay, Mr.
Thank
Greer?
you.
Thanks, Chair. Does anybody else recall, I think the mayor did mention that, we were getting a new machine for that too. He vaguely mentioned it a couple months ago, that they were looking into a new machine
Looking into it, yes.
to
yes.
make it more efficient.
You know, when we had 35, I'm just saying 35, it could be, you know, plus or minus, in the street department, they used to pave streets, if you remember. You know, they used to do the whole street and pave it and everything of that sort. And, you know, that equipment was from 1960s or something of that sort, and it gets to the point where you can't even repair it because there's no parts for that. And then with the work that we have, the employees that we have now, 13 of them, they're out every day. I mean, it's amazing how 13 people can do as much work as they do, but we'll work on those streets, that's for sure. And if anybody has, you know, let your council person know, and just give me the street, and they will report it, and they'll be out to patch. Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add on that. I get a lot of complaints too. I typically will follow up, but at first, I would submit them myself. And then, if you know, you gotta teach them, right? And it really goes a long way to walk them through how to do it themselves, because that system is not just for us. It's not just for city administrations. It's for the public too as well. And then usually what I do is I'll walk them through on how they do it, how they submit the support ticket, and then I ask them for that support ticket number. And then that's how I follow up. And then if you keep on doing it, sooner or later, they're going to build a record, a reason to pave a road, rather than just going out there all the time. It'll be on the record
Right, right.
that it needs fixed.
That's why it's so important for each council person to ride in their ward and mark the streets down and turn those streets in, because that is your responsibility in your ward. So, and then I always follow up or drive around the area. So, yeah, I did get a thank you, which I was really gracious with. So, any other questions? Okay, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking of submitting streets, do we have any updates on when the list will be?
Soon, that's what I'm getting, soon, so.
That's what I was told too.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd have it this week, maybe we'll have it next week, I'm not sure. I'll have to, that's a big project, that's.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of streets that are up above, you know, that need to be done right away, so. But
And there were
everything
90 submitted, somewhere around there.
Oh, they're not gonna do 90.
I know, but just,
Yeah.
it's a lot to consider, I know. I just
Yeah,
was
but that
curious.
would be a lot,
You always ask for the world.
yeah.
Right, which makes sense, I know they've got a lot to
And you have to stop and
review.
think, I think we're almost a month ahead, because the budget was passed earlier and they've been working on it. So, last year, we didn't even start patching or start paving or going out to bid. It had to be close to what, October?
Yeah, it was
We
super
finished
late.
up in October, it was late. So, I've been asking, so maybe next week.
Yeah, well, I think if we are able to start getting estimates in the fall, that might make a huge difference. So,
Yeah.
good thought. Thank you.
Anybody? Mr. Best?
I got a question on it. Do we get any warranty on these roads? State Street's not that old where it's falling apart.
I know.
If you've been down Fifth Street, it's already starting to come undone.
Second Street also.
And same with Ninth Street a little bit here and there. So we're not getting any kind of warranty. We're getting the short end of it because it should be falling apart.
I don't think there's a warranty, you know, like
We
a
used to get 7 years, usually 7 years.
Mr. Teodoki, do you know if we have any type of, when we go out to bid, is there any type of warning, any type?
Recourse.
Yes, but again, let me find out exactly the terms of what and when the warranty starts and exactly what that is, and I'll make that part of the report back for next week.
And does it make a difference with AMAS? Because they do some of the contracting.
It's still some state and federal
When
money.
that's-
that
yeah,
each
state and
has
federal money.
requirements. So I'll follow up by next week.
Okay, Fifth Street, Second Street, and what was the other one?
State.
State.
Yeah. I love conversation.
Go for it.
All right.
Um,
Oh, my gosh. Anybody else have anything to say? Mr. President?
Thank you, Chair. I did want to mention that there was concern with Fish Street and Norton Avenue to begin with. That's why the signs are still up, because they didn't close out the project, because it wasn't done right. We caught it early. I don't know what come of that since, but that's been what the mayor has told me since the beginning, is that the project's not closed out yet, and they're still going. Now, I do want to maybe suggest Mr. Teodoki to reach out to the city of Norton, because I know they're having issues with Norton Avenue as well. And it could be something we could, because it was the same project, same material, I believe, and same contractor, if I'm not mistaken.
Did Fifth Street ever get the final put on? Because it
Yeah,
was towards the
yeah,
winter
it
time.
got- yep.
Okay, they did get the final on? Okay.
I don't know.
the gentleman back
Yes.
We have
there,
a person that is well-versed in paving in the planning commission now. He documented or told me that, looking at what they did, they actually shorted us about a 1/4 inch the whole length of it. That's why there's that little gap on the
Oh.
end, which if they did that, but talk to him.
Okay. Tony?
We got him on our side.
Good. Yes, sir? You had your hand up?
Just one quick comment. Coming in on Barber Road South, in other words, you're coming off of 76 into Barberton. One of the things that I noticed pretty badly is the fact that as soon as you hit from the Norton line to Norton Avenue, that right lane is full of homes.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
It is bad. Especially right at the intersection, where I is right at the high school.
High school intersection.
That, to me, is a major access to the city of Barberton, and a lot of people come in that way. Appearance-wise, sure don't look great, and being the fact that, like I said, it's been that way for quite a while. Just comment about it, and like I said, you got one major hole right at the intersection.
At the intersection,
And I
okay.
think from there, almost to Norton Avenue, there's next to nothing but between the Norton line and Morgan Avenue. It's on the southbound side, on your right side. You got several
Okay.
holes.
I think I'll make an appointment, come in and sit down and talk to you guys, okay?
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. President?
Thank you.
From council? From galley? Anybody? No? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Bailey, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Griffin, and we are adjourned at 6:15 PM.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to bring to order the Committee of Environmental Health and Social Services. It's May 2nd, 2022. It's 6:16 PM. We are in council chambers. All members are present, which is myself, Mr. Jaber, and Mrs. Angeloff. And all council members are as listed on my sheet, and all others are as noted. We have no requested legislation and no pending legislation. Is there any miscellaneous discussion? No? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I will second that, ma'am.
All right, we are adjourned at 6:16 PM.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee meeting to order. It is Monday, May 2nd at 6:17 PM here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which is myself as chair, Mrs. Angeloff, Mr. Jaber, and President Greer. All other council members are also present, and any guests will be noted on my sheet. We have no new requests for legislation. We do have one pending legislation, which is Ordinance 44-2022, the zoning map amendment for 105 West State Street. The first reading was April 11th, second was April 25th, and third will be next week, May 9th. Are there any remarks regarding this piece of legislation?
I have a quick question. Has anybody got any emails for positive or negative about this transfer or anything?
I haven't heard either way on this.
Mr. Hunt, any emails or any questions about the property?
Nothing new. I did get one phone call from a former councilman that I shared with you guys, I think a couple weeks back, but nothing new.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, moving on to miscellaneous discussion. Anyone from the committee? Other council members? Gallery? All right. Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned at 6:18.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mr. Heddick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel, it is Monday, May 2nd, 2022, 6:19. We are in council chambers. The committee consists of Councilors Coburn and Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chairman. All others present and noted. For requested legislation, we got nothing. For pending, got nothing. So is there any miscellaneous discussion from the committee? President Greer?
Thank you, Chair. Do you know if we have any update on a dashboard for the ARP money, the ARPA funds money yet?
Mr. Mayor, is,
Yes, thank you. No dashboard yet. We'll be coming to council here soon, if the request hasn't already been made, on the restrictions. And so I want to explain those restrictions, but then also go through the dashboard. And, one, waiting for that, which should be coming up pretty soon. Two, I haven't had the time to get it completed. So.
thank you. Are there any other questions from the body? From the gallery? Mr. Mayor?
And I apologize, I have some things I have to attend to downstairs, so I won't be able to stay for the rest of council. I'm sorry that I was late, had some meetings, but I did want to go over two things, if that's okay.
By all means.
All right. First, we had our first CIC meeting tonight, and it was just kind of an overview of the giving out the code of regulations and who's on the board and all this and that. So we're still a few seats short. So I will provide counsel who's on the board and all that. But we've only had, just tonight was the first meeting. So a lot of just explaining of how we got from not having a CIC to where we are today. So no real in-depth discussion. And then two, just want to announce a press release went out earlier today that we became a finalist again for an All-American City Award. So 2 years in a row, we have a presentation we have to put together, which is due in July, and then so we'll find out shortly after that. So.
Mr. Mayor, the CIC, how many seats do you have open?
I don't recall off the top of my head. We had a few people who were unable to meet today, but they're still part of it. I'd say 3 or 4.
And can the public just apply to your email?
Yes.
Thank you.
Letter of interest or a resume.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Director, anything? Okay, well then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:22.
All right, thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes the committee meetings for this evening. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we will come back and start the committee of the whole meeting. Thank you.
So great.
Okay.
It's definitely worth it. It's worth it. See, good night.
Well, this is,
I don't feel like it is.
what? Right, but this is, allows for the 100% increase. It's
But what if we had the original drawings?
if it jumps, it's basically.
Oh, good. Great. Oh, good. That's what I like to hear. Okay.
Right, so like, in 6 years when they redo it, they're essentially, it's like an interest rate for locking it in. They're not getting it. But there's, that's one of them, and there's 2 other ones in the town. I want to say the B&W and Foundation Parkway and all that's one. And over by Melco, I think, is the other. I'd have to look up, but I know there's more than one.
There's nothing you can do, you know, if it wouldn't have been for Tammy Frost
Yeah.
and the prosecutor that pushed it,
But we did do
and we
the,
switched judges, we went from
we gave a break to the
Jill,
BWXT.
and she said, that's enough. This is
That one,
huge no.
that was
That's
actually a
enough.
tax break, because the school had to sign off on that too.
Good, good.
something
Yes,
like-
exactly.
something-
We don't have to come in person, just send a letter in,
The schools have
you
to
know?
agree. I cannot believe
That's
this
fine.
weekend.
Yeah, I told him, he told me before, he goes, I'll never talk to you again. I'll never email you. And I go, okay, Pat, that's the way you feel. Well, then he did. And I go, oh, that was a year ago, but he forgot. I said, that's fine. But I was trying to make contact with Eric Sohn, who lives across the street. I talked to his mom, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him, you know, because probably, yeah.
We got to the first one.
Finally got it
It was
going up.
awesome. The second one got canceled.
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
first flight was delayed, canceled. So we decided
Well,
to take the
that's
train
your house.
to Chicago. When we get to the train station,
Exactly,
the train's 2.5
exactly.
hours late. Or it's running 2.5 hours behind. So we get another one that was only an hour behind. So we leave Cleveland at 4 a.m. We get to Chicago, downtown. We have to take a taxi to O'Hare because that's what the reservation where our rental car is. So we can drive to Aurora for the first show. We get to O'Hare, the rental car company has so many cars. And they won't for 2 hours. So we had to Uber down to Aurora, made it in time for that show. Uber back to downtown Chicago to the hotel, shower, get changed, get down to the
Thank
theater,
you.
get to our seats, and curtain up at 7:30 to come.
I'll
to the
call.
show's
We'll get
canceled.
you and Mike and Todd.
So
to
then,
talk.
then
Not
we
you.
just go get
Not-
something to eat and go back to the hotel. We get up to go to O'Hare to fly back. They can't.
But maybe
they
I
can't get
will.
boarding passes because somehow they switched us to a flight at 6:30 instead of 11. So it took like 20, 30 minutes to get that straight. I'm like, what is happening here? And I told my brother, I go, he goes, good Lord, he goes, who would ever travel with you? I go, and Sean wants me to go to Qatar with him in the wintertime to go to the World Cup. He's like, oh, he's insane if he wants you to travel that far with him.
It's next Monday. Yeah, he's out there.
Yeah, and the whole time, like I said, we just kept saying, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. There's no freaking out. We'll figure it out. But then we find out.
Oh, nothing.
One of my friends has a friend that works for
Joe's.
CBS in Chicago. Before I pulled in, one of the reporters from CBS.
But I told him you might get a bigger backyard. Because I know that our fence now, she had like
She asked me and I go, I don't know,
she had to put in 3 feet to her property. So hey, if we want to go to the line, we go to the line. 2 inches, 3 inches, I think it
He
is.
was out there.
Yeah.
Saw the guy running
I
through
made
the alley.
myself bleed standing out
Her
there.
hand and somebody got shot in
Look,
the
the
ear.
paper.
So I told them to put you on a dump tank if there's a dump tank for.
Verify this.
I know.
I wish I could stay out too.
I'm just, I don't even think they're having a dump tank. I was like, but if we have. I got
Parking lot.
Over there to
Yeah, and that's part of the thing,
Arabia,
how do you include it, but
military.
as the
He was gonna go over there.
but take it away, so it's only for special,
Because
so
he didn't
it's
have
working. I gotta look
I
at
didn't
this.
want to go.
I just, I had to
They
walk
even
around,
told him,
how
if
many
you go,
trash cans do we
you
have?
cannot take over.
See, I've always heard we cut one of the but a lot of
Way,
reasons.
what happened to
So it might be that that wasn't originally a parking, so we're allowed to.
Right.
Did you say to take out
literally.
No, to include F class.
F class?
Yeah, because that's like, if, yeah, that's the one that you can get a 1 day or 2 day permit. A nonprofit has to run it. So like basically when somebody was doing a beer garden, they would have, like Salvation Army, we'd have to get an F class license through, let's just say me, where I would buy the beer at my wholesale price and sell it to them at the wholesale price.
Yeah, it was all this.
No.
They're all on my
They're-
phone.
When we did the temporary expansion, I emailed them, they were just like, great. That was basically their email back to me. Oh. Oh, yeah.
We got a thing on the late, the one that we're doing.
I didn't
We're
get
doing Rick, but I mean.
I didn't get it. Oh, yes, yes.
I was so quick because
That's all new, that's all new, it's kind of.
Well, it's big that.
Yeah, there was another one. It's on our committee. It's on,
No,
the mayor's gonna come.
yeah, but no.
This is yet another,
one.
yeah, a lot of them got like. Oh, then everyone will come.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're gonna get started. Be sure your phones are on silent or off, microphones are on. Today is Monday, May 2nd, 2022. This is a committee of the whole meeting. I call this meeting to order at 6:29 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a resolution to present to Captain Schwinning. Yes, ma'am.
Resolution 42-2022, title, Commendation, Captain Richard A. Schwenning. A resolution of the Council of the City of Barberton to honor and give public recognition to Captain Richard A. Schwenning for his 33 years of dedicated service to this city as a member of the Barberton Fire Department. Whereas Richard Rick Schwenning was hired as a Barberton firefighter on March 16, 1989. He was promoted to lieutenant on May 24, 1999, and promoted to captain on April 3, 2020. And whereas Captain Schwenning has had many accomplishments over his career, including being a part of the Barberton Fire Department Honor Guard, Barberton Fire Department 9/11 Committee, Akron District Pipe Band, and numerous positions within BFFA Local 329, including a total of 22 years as president. And whereas his knowledge and experience have earned Captain Schwenning numerous letters of recognition, awards, and citations throughout his career. His dedication will be greatly missed, as his last date with the Barberton Fire Department is March 31st, 2022. And whereas Captain Schwenning made Barberton his home, and where he and his wife Beth raised 3 sons, Richard, Liz, Matthew, and Zachary. Richard followed in his dad's footsteps as a Barberton firefighter. Rick has 2 beautiful granddaughters, Eleanor and Amelia, who he has no doubt will have the opportunity to spend much more open time with upon his retirement. And whereas Richard Schwenning leaves with a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience that will not be easily replaced. He will be missed by everyone who had the opportunity to know him. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Barberton, State of Ohio, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Barberton hereby honors and gives public recognition to Richard A. Schwenning for his 33 years of dedicated service to this city as a member of the Barberton Fire Department. Section 2, that it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were meetings open to the public and in compliance with the law. Section 3, that this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the earliest period allowed by law. Passed unanimously April 11th, 2022.
Come on up, Mr. Schwenning.
Congratulations. Enjoy.
Swain, this is where you gave a speech.
Yes.
Over here? Yes, sir.
So we can hear you.
Well, I can say that I'm very proud. I'm honored to have been a firefighter for this city for 33 years. It was a very happy day, very pleasurable day when the city said, we trust you with our equipment and our citizens and the welfare of this city. And it was an honor and a pleasure to be here for that long. It's a great city to work for. I want to thank this council, every member of this council, for your consideration. I truly appreciate it. I most of all want to thank my family, especially my wife Beth. There's many a nights spent home alone. And as far as the kids, there were plenty of holidays that were spent without Dad being there. Or they spent some time at the fire station, 15, 20 minutes on Christmas Day when they could. So I want to appreciate and thank them for their sacrifice. I think that's about all I can do. I do want to, it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with these guys behind me. And will always be proud to say I was a Barberton firefighter. And I will always be proud to call these guys my brothers. Thank you.
Is there any council members that would like to say anything? I will. Captain Swinton, you were the first firefighter that I ran into and met and worked with as a up-and-coming council member. And you welcomed me in there, you welcomed me to show how things work, to address the issues as residents and as I would see from a council member. You invited me to the meetings, to do interviews. You've been nothing but helpful, and I am grateful that personally, and I know everybody else in the city is grateful for that as well. It's not too often that we get to say thank you to the family, but thank you to your family. That's a sacrifice that's not forgotten. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Angela?
Rick, everybody's retiring, and we grew up together, I was there for 25 years. We were wet behind our ears learning everything, and you've always been so cordial to me, and I really appreciate everything that you've done. I think I did work with you maybe a little bit when you were in the union, but I just want to thank you and enjoy. Just enjoy.
Thank you. I will.
Oh, yes. Yes. Enjoy.
The baby's already left.
Thank you for your service.
One that didn't need a microphone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Take care.
That made me tear up.
All right, so we're going to follow up with some boring stuff. Next up is citizens addressing council.
There are none.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. All right, we're going to jump into the committee reports. Hi, Mr. Betts, nothing, huh? All right. Next up is committee reports, so we're going to kick off committee reports with streets, sidewalk, and lighting with Ms. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets, sidewalk, and lighting met this evening at 6 p.m. All committee members were present, all council was present, along with guests. My committee has no new legislation, no pending legislation, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Ms. Angela. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee met this evening, and I have nothing new to report. So with that, I pass.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Thompson. City Utilities with Mrs. Colbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met last week. We have no new legislation. We have some that we're voting on for the houses to be sold, and that'll be next week, but it's not new. We have no pending, that is the pending legislation, but we have nothing else. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Colbert. Public Welfare and Safety, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met last Monday, April 25th at 6:36 in council chambers. All committee members were present, as well as all of the council members, and guests as noted on my sheet. We had one new request for legislation last week. We'll be voting on it next week. It was yet another letter from Chief Rob Persley, retired, requesting a resolution recognizing and congratulating Lieutenant Edward Pramick for his 30 years of dedicated service to the city of Barberton. Lieutenant Pramick's last day with Barberton Fire Department will be, or it was, April 30th, 2022. We also voted on an appropriation for the Fire Prevention and Education Fund. And with that, Public Welfare and Safety will pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Fry. Rules, Marketing, and Development, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Marketing, and Development has nothing new to report.
Thank you. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Environmental Health and Social Services Committee met tonight. There is nothing new to report, and with that, I pass.
Thank you. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties Park Recreation met April 25th, 2022 at 6:29 PM. All council members were present, but also other council members also noted. We had one new requested legislation, and a letter from Mayor Just with requesting legislation to enter contract with Lampion Companies in an amount not to exceed $232,500 for the lighting upgrade of the Foundation Field Sports Complex. Motion passed, and we voted yes, and with that, I pass, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Finance and Personnel, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel actually has nothing new to report.
That's neat. Thank you, Mr. Heidick. I'm going to open it up to the floor for council. If you guys have anything you want to say. Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the weekend, I had two residents over Christmas Park. They had somebody drew some vulgar language and some racial slurs on the play sets. I reached out to the parks director. I really think we need to really work together to get some cameras put up in our parks. I don't know if there's any other council members that have any problems with their parks or with vulgar language or any kind of drawings on the play sets. Anybody?
Just cleaned that park. Sorry, I just cleaned that park.
Yeah, there was some, they drew on the, I showed Mr. Griffin the pictures. They drew it on the slide and on the pole, and the racial marks were also on the pole. I just really think we had cameras on there to try to help out.
They are in the process of getting estimates for cameras and finding out which ones are the best for our parks. I know that Mr. Patterson's been working on that. So that they're getting the estimates to bring to us on that. So that is in the works.
Hopefully after the estimates come, we can move forward with them as soon as possible.
I do believe that the parks did have cameras in them at one point, and it was astronomically a waste of money because the system did not work right.
Right.
That's,
it was a horrible investment.
A few years ago, and they were.
But tech changes and.
So I know that he told us just before we switched positions that, and I think twice this year he's brought it up, that they are looking into them diligently.
Well, so like I said, hopefully we can move forward faster because it's already May. I mean, summertime's gonna be over. And we have more problems during the summertime months, springtime. That's when more kids are being used. That'd be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Is there anything else from anybody on council? Any department heads? Mr. Hunt, Mr. Teodecki, anything?
Pardon me, we did get a letter from the Ohio History Connection dated April 20th. It's just, it coincides with the National Register District that we put forward back. I went back in December of 2021 before the State Historic Preservation Office. And the letter pretty much just states that they're running behind, but the National Park Service has been kind of served the documents to certify the National Register District. So if anyone wants to take a look at that, I do have that letter here this evening, so you're welcome to. But probably in the next month or so that will be certified, so that's my hope.
Awesome, thank you. Anything else? I just have one quick thing. The Barberton Community Foundation, along with the Downtown Merchants Association and some of the businesses, have worked to get Heritage Ohio in town. If you are not familiar with Heritage Ohio has a program called Main Street, and they come in and they're outside experts that really just break down. They walk your downtown area, they see what's wrong, they kind of provide outside experts, they help you form committees and boards and take the next step in revitalizing. They're responsible, Mrs. Coburn, correct me if I'm wrong, but like Wadsworth, is Wadsworth one of them that use them? Dayton,
Yes.
I think they said like Dayton and a couple other really nice places. But it's a group that comes in and they just consult, they break it down for you. You get an outside perspective that's really raw, and it was good. We had a stakeholder meeting, there was a public meeting at the YMCA, and then there was a luncheon meeting prior to that. Now, this is where I just wanted to give an update on the current status of this program. Currently, there's a stakeholders, which is really some merchants, the Barberton Community Foundation is on there. There's a couple other businesses in town that are on this, and they'll be forming a board. And then Heritage Ohio has broken down and given guidance and information on what committees to create, how many people to have on it, what topics to look at. And currently, that whole process is seeing who wants to join the board, which is just the stakeholders right now, to form everything. And then once the committees are formed and they got their agendas, and I think they call them the work orders is what they call them. Once those are outlined, then there's going to be the opportunity for council members, other business members, community members, people to get involved and join these committees and be assigned tasks to move forward and help this program. So it's going to be a slow program. It's a month before we even figure out if the board members, probably a couple years to get going. But it's going to open us up to funding downtown. Hopefully, the idea is to help merchants, help revitalize downtown and neighborhoods. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on that meeting, where that's at. There's nothing really new that came from it, but they did identify some troublesome areas in our downtown where they think that we can improve, and they've provided guidance to move forward. So now we're just, as soon as the board's established, then the committees will be established, and then that's where everybody else can be assigned things within that committee. And I will say that these are committees not like any other committee. They're taking it serious. Like you have to volunteer. I mean, it was jokingly, but it's true. You have to dedicate hours a month strictly for that committee and strictly for that job. And it's a good program. So I was at the stakeholder meeting. I seen that. I know Mrs. Coburn was there, and so if anybody has any questions, you can ask myself, Mrs. Coburn. I think Mr. Hunt is on that board too as well, along with the mayor, has that information, and Barberton Community Foundation has the information too. So if anybody has any questions about that program. Mr. Heide.
It was 3 days.
What's the name of this group?
Heritage Ohio.
Okay, my second question is, who's paying these people?
So it's Barberton Community Foundation through a grant and merchants.
We had 5 or 6 major stakeholders, including Irene Shapiro, the foundation, the merchants, a couple of other companies paid to bring them in. Now we start the work to find out if we want to keep them and take their advice and their help.
That's kind of why it wasn't like a big known.
No, I just was curious. I know.
We have discussed it at merchants meeting for 2 years. We approached them 2 years ago, Mr. Hunt?
Yeah, it's been a little while. I know that COVID kind of held up the heritage folks.
So this was 2 years ago we started, that's why, and we didn't know if they were actually gonna get to show up or not.
So it sounds like a good program that we'd take serious, so. Any other questions? All right, not seeing anything. Since Mayor's not here, this meeting is adjourned at 6:49 PM. Thank you.
What day was it, Joyce?
It was the 26th, 27th.
Have a good night. Are you eating now?
Oh, yeah. One day, we're taking tomorrow.
Just 6 more and then you're done. Oh, that's good. You're in the home
There
stretch.
was two that